My name's Will Phillips. I'm the founder of Rex Roundtables, and I've had over a 20-year history of designing and leading intense roundtables. One of the factors that gives me the greatest pride in our roundtables is that pretty much if somebody joins a roundtable, they stay until they sell their business. This means that we have about a 95% customer loyalty rate. This means that we have members who have been in roundtables for 10, 15, 20 years. One over 23 years and has never missed one of the 3 meetings a year. So they're getting something out of this. These are owners who are taking time away from their busy jobs, the tremendous schedule that they have in order to show up for a meeting and never miss one. People who've never been in a roundtable have a lot of questions and doubts and concerns about the value of a roundtable. Unfortunately, the word roundtable has become so popular that it is used by conferences and meetings all over the place, and those are not what we do. In fact, we're slowly working at changing the phrase we use from Rex Roundtable to a Rex community, because a community is very different from just having a round table or people sitting around a table and talking. Some of the objections that people have where they're unsure about the value of a round table are things like, look, I've read the books, I've listened to the seminars, I've hired the consultants. Why is this any different? Well, you're right. There is something different. And I think the first place to start is the difference between ideas and actions. Most of the people who are authors or consultants or lead seminars and give speeches and presentations, they prefer to talk. I prefer to talk sometimes. Only real business people know that action, or even better yet, results are what count. And those business leaders are very different from the professors and consultants who talk about ideas. It turns out that results are a lot harder than ideas. There's lots of professors I know who've studied something very important, a world problem, hunger or democracy or something of this sort, and they write about it. And it's very interesting to read. And then when they've published their book, they say, well, that's solved. Now we'll go on to the next problem. Well, of course, nothing is solved. So it's easier to stay in the world of ideas than it is to make things happen in the real world. This is why a Rex Roundtable is full of business owners, not speakers, not consultants. And those other roundtable members, those practical, down-to-earth people, will push you for results in a way that no consultant or no speaker or no professor will ever push you to get a result. And we measure everything. We measure your performance. We check on it each year. We put those figures in public in the roundtable, not outside, but in the roundtable, so everybody sees. Are you really taking action and getting results? And because it's a long-term commitment, we see things over a long time. In fact, one of the reasons I stopped consulting is that most of the times a client would stop working with us as outside consultants after 1 or 2 years. We knew they hadn't gotten the results yet. But they said, enough, I think we have it. We knew they didn't. So I had to figure out a way to work with businesses over much longer periods of time. It would be like having a child, a son or a daughter, and thinking that maybe a year or 2 would be enough to raise them well. No, it's a lifetime. That's why we've created Rex Roundtables to build lifetime relationships with clients so that we can get results. These are not seminars. These are not just ideas. The hard thing about getting results is you must change how you're acting. If you want different results, you have to behave and act and do things differently. And if you want to behave and act and do things differently, Now we get to the hard part. It means you have to change how you're thinking. You have to change how you're thinking if you want to get different actions that will get different results. And this is where most owners prefer to skip that and just go back and let's talk about ideas. It's easier. Being a mountaineering guide for many years, I developed that coaching, guiding capacity of taking clients who came to the hard parts and wanted to give up, and I kept them going. So we got to the summit. We achieved the climb by doing the hard things. So part of my direction and the direction in Rex Roundtables is to get you to do the hard things, the emotionally hard things that are very easy for a business owner to avoid. And most consultants are not able to put on the heat or the pressure over a long enough time to help you get those results. That's why a Rex Roundtable community is different. This whole idea of implementations also reveals that too many club owners, in the US anyway, want a formula so they don't have to risk trying something that's new or different. They want the answer with no risk. And that's kind of a setup because you can't get there from here. Of course, there really aren't any formulas for success. If there were, everybody'd be using them and everybody'd be successful. But then they'd all be competing with you. So fortunately, it's not easy. If it were easy, you'd have even more competition. What this means is that we must always think, adapt, innovate, experiment. And this is really hard work because it's confusing, it's unclear, and sometimes it's just plain scary. We're there, and your Roundtable community is there to keep you at the edge so that you don't back away. So we all want something new, but we don't want to risk anything until someone else has proven that it works. Now, this is true in the US. I don't know about Italy. It may or may not be true there. It's true in Australia. It's true in England. We'll see. Another concern that people have about Rex Roundtables is that, look, I've been to so many meetings and when we talk about the typical and basic topics over and over again, same old stuff, nothing new. Most convention goers and seminar attendees say that the programs begin to repeat themselves after a few years. And they're right, because the seminars and conventions are designed to attract the masses of people. Rex communities are not for the masses of people. They're for very special people who are willing to make some sacrifice and effort to really get better. But we will go deeper in a different way. We will go deeply into topics as the Rex members have the courage to penetrate into new and unknown and uncertain territory. It's not just expanding the amount of information. It is switching gears into a different layer of information. I've written an article called The Three Agendas, First, Second, and Third Agenda, and pointed out that 95% of every convention focuses on the first agenda. Very few get down into the second agenda, which talks about the design of your organization. And almost none go down into the third agenda. We'll touch on the third agenda when we get face to face, but it's about your own personal transformation and change. Without that, it's difficult for the performance to improve. Talk to any professional sports coach, and they will tell you about this personal change that occurs in their good athletes, their highly skilled athletes, that make them world-class stars. It's not just learning a new technique or a new idea. It's their internal change. Often, the limiting factor in terms of going deep is the owner, who's unwilling to look at his or her own contribution to the issue. If you're courageous, we'll help you do that. I'm sure you remember the old story that when you're blaming someone, there's actually 3 fingers pointing in this direction. So that's where we go. Instead of out here, we go back in here. And we look at how you contribute and how you can then change the problem and get a different result. Rex communities are tough and confrontive. You won't be let off the hook. But we're caring and supportive, but still tough. And for many owners, no one has ever been tough on them. Their employees don't challenge the boss. Their spouse doesn't know enough about business to challenge the boss. They're very slippery and never quite give their banker or investors the full story. So it turns out that most small business owners are accountable to almost no one. If you join a Rex community, you will be held accountable for superior performance. Some people are concerned that what works in the United States won't work in your country. That's 100% true. It's also true that what works in Milan will not work in Palermo, nor will it work in Rome. And finally, it's also true that the answers that work in your club won't work in his club. They're not the same. Business is not about formulas or cookbooks where all the answers are spelled out and they always work. No idea will work well unless it is adapted to fit your business, your market, your leadership style, your resources, and your capabilities. No idea will work unless it takes account of your shortfalls and your blind spots as a leader. And no management idea will work unless you have a deep and proven understanding of what it means to build commitment from your staff to actually implement. Most small businesses have never truly developed this understanding and quality sufficiently deeply, so it always ends up that it falls back on the owner or the leader to pick up the pieces, to straighten things out, and to resolve, and so you're caught in a never-ending cycle of fixes instead of really leading and powering your business forward. And no management idea will ever work back home unless you are persistent, experimental, and driven by principles. These 4 no's are the very reason for a Rex Roundtable. These roundtables are not just ideas and workshops and management principles, but they are focused on overcoming the various 4 reasons that I just outlined to turn your ideas into results. This is different. You will be helped by the roundtable's brain power, by the power of peers, and their heart to persevere. And we always keep a list of unresolved issues and who has them. So we come back and check. Have we made progress? What's happening? Why not? What's going on? Other people are concerned that roundtables would be ineffective because whenever we have something like this, we talk about one topic and we don't go deeply enough to get a full understanding. Then we finish and, we'll talk about it next time. And we come together next time and we don't talk about it. What you say is true of most meetings and events. It is the very reason a special Rex method exists, which is designed to avoid and eliminate all the shortfalls of discussions, meetings, seminars, retreats, and so-called roundtables. Here's what's different in Rex. The first thing is that in most meetings, no one takes responsibility for stopping what's not effective and getting the important issues on the table. We do that. In other words, we talk about the same old things in the same old ways. Why? Because everyone is afraid of naming the elephant in the room. One ground rule that Rex has is that everyone is responsible for naming the elephant in the room. The other thing we do is we create safe space where you can be honest and talk fully about your concerns, your shortfalls, your errors, your problems, and your challenges, telling the whole truth and all the truth in a very high trust and totally confidential environment. We also end each day and the roundtable itself with each member stating, what are my commitments for action? What am I going to follow up on? What results will I produce? And we track these from meeting to meeting. And if you come to a meeting, you will be embarrassed if you do nothing. We will support you in making changes. We will coach you in making changes. The difference between Rex Roundtables and a seminar is the difference between reading a book about football and having a coach and a team to play on to learn football.